This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. I want to talk a little bit about the driverless car because it's in the headlines again. They're talking about how a year from now, Uber is going to start using driverless cars. We know about the 5G technology they're rolling out, which is just pretty much going to microwave people. But the 5G technology is necessary for this type of ridiculous technology. And remember, the driverless car is going to be pitched as something that is safe and secure. There won't be any more accidents. Remember, they've been creating these false flag events recently in the last few years of ISIS drivers driving through crowds and killing people. They've done all this stuff to create the illusion that cars are dangerous. And, obviously driving is dangerous. I mean, there's idiots driving around texting, crashing into people. Very dangerous stuff. But the driverless car in itself is something that they want because they want total control over you. Now, this would mean they can control where you go. Not only do they monitor us now, but imagine how much more we'd be giving to them if we gave them the ability to track us in the car wherever we were going, as far as, the driverless vehicle taking us to these locations. And then all the stuff that they can do. Like, I would expect if I ever got in a driverless car, which I never would, I would expect the car to drive me off a cliff because they'd know where I was. And not that they don't know now, but it's to me, I look at it too as a free chance at a kill, right? Because who's going to be held responsible? Who's going to be held responsible if a driverless car runs somebody over? And we're seeing stuff in the news now from Tesla and GM being involved in some road collisions. A motorcyclist got hit by a car that was on autopilot, which is something I guess the Tesla cars do. And you say to yourself, okay, well, what's going to happen? Oh, he's going to sue GM or he's going to sue Tesla. Yeah, but what if these driverless cars start running people over? Is somebody going to go to jail for manslaughter? No. They're going to say, well, the something with the car went wrong. Here's a bunch of money. Shut up and go away. So I actually see this as just another way for them too to get sacrifices done, to kill innocent people and get away with it. Because listen, if somebody gets killed by a driverless car, they could say, well, it was a faulty this or a faulty that. Most likely the story will never get reported anyway. But who is going to be held accountable when people start getting killed? Because we know there's manslaughter cases, whether the person's driving drunk or somebody just is texting and hits somebody while they're jogging. Yeah, that's manslaughter. I mean, that's a crime. And you could see here that they're pushing this. And all the stories, there's a ton of stories out about the driverless car. In addition to these stories about accidents are being reported, they're saying Americans are slowly warming up to self-driving cars. And that's because of the propaganda, like I said, that they created with cars driving through crowds, right? Whether it's at some of those events with the Antifa stuff, we saw cars drive through at these protests, or it's these ISIS ones that we've seen all around, whether it's New York or overseas. They've conditioned people to want this. So they're trying to tell people driverless cars really will make the roads safer. But then when you look into some of these accidents, this motorcyclist is accusing the robot-driven vehicle of negligent driving. A California motorcyclist has filed a lawsuit against GM accusing one of the manufacturer's robot cars of negligent driving. Oscar Nielsen claims he was traveling down a San Francisco street last month when a Cruise AV aborted a lane change and swerved into his lane. The car struck him. Okay? This is stuff that people should probably know about. In addition to the fact, that they're going to be using these 5G towers as the technology they're going to use to push this garbage and shove it down our throats. We got a car switching lanes, hitting a guy on a motorcycle. And you'd think it would be a big deal, right? Because unless this thing was 100% perfectly safe, I don't see how they could even sell it to people out there. But you know what? People are going to love it because they're creating this vision or this mindset as well that, millennials don't like to drive and nobody likes to drive anymore, right? The Uber mindset. Everybody wants to get picked up and dropped off somewhere. They'll use DUIs and things like that as well because they'll say, listen, there won't be any more DUIs. Instead, we'll just rely on this robot, this ghost driver to take us home and not get in an accident. And then if they do, well, you can sue GM or Tesla. But, nobody's really responsible for it. I mean, it's ridiculous. And they're saying that manufacturers are ramping up testing in the race to become the first to generate a foolproof automatic driverless car. Back in 2016, Tesla CEO Elon Musk famously stated the probability of having an accident is 50% lower using the manufacturer's autopilot feature compared to full human control. But recent incidences have seen the technology come under fire. And this is also, a guy gets arrested in California recently. He puts his car on autopilot, but he's drunk, right? So he's allowed to be behind the wheel, but he's not really behind the wheel because it's on autopilot. Following a collision with Tesla Model S electric car and a fire engine in California on Monday, the driver allegedly told investigators he was using autopilot, the system which keeps the vehicle centered in its lane at a set distance from cars in front of it and also can change lanes and brake automatically, is now under investigation in the U.S. for the second time. Now, it doesn't matter that these things are under investigation. They're going to push this through. This is part of their agenda. This is what they want. Okay? We're going to be completely dependent on AI technology, artificial intelligence, and people are going to turn and become transhuman, right? Live forever, become your own superhero, all of this stuff. It's going to become automated. And people think that that's better for us. It's just giving up more control is what it's doing. And again, it's enabling these 5G towers, which have already proven to be extremely dangerous. It's enabling them to put them up in more and more towns because they say, listen, you want the driverless car? Oh, yeah, that sounds cool. Well, we got to get these 5G towers. Well, people can't see what the 5G is doing to people. And then when people start getting brain tumors, instead of going, well, maybe it's from these 5G towers, they'll just point up and say, well, why did God do this to me? Right? Because that's how stupid our society is. And that's how they've been trained to think. Because they trust in the government. They think that they're going to completely protect them. It says General Motors is currently facing a lawsuit over a San Francisco collision which saw a motorcyclist knocked off his bike by a Chevrolet Bolt performing a lane change. One of Google's driverless cars was involved in an event when it pulled into the path of an oncoming bus back last February. Uber was forced to pull their self-driving cars from the road in March last year, too, after a test vehicle ended up on its side while attempting to take a turn. Okay, and now if you look into this even more, Apple is creating or has their own driverless car. So all of these brands that you're supposed to trust in and rely upon, they're coming out with this driverless car. It's an agenda. Okay? Obviously, we can see that. It doesn't take rocket science to figure this out. They're going to get all this stuff put in place, and they're going to have total control over everybody, where they are, what they're doing. As if they don't already have enough. Just imagine with the cars. Just imagine. Driverless car, please take me to Walmart. And the driverless car, instead of making a right, it makes a left, and then there goes a call for an uprising off the bridge into a river. Right? Who's responsible for it? Well, the car just kind of had a glitch. They thought he said river, but he really said Walmart? I don't know. It sounds like he might have committed suicide. Oh, yeah. Right? Just think of the stuff they can pull with this. It's unimaginable because nobody's going to be held responsible. They're going to go, well, it's a computer, it's technology, it's not perfect, but it's 50% less than before. Did you hear? There's 50% less accidents. Oh, that's a nice made up statistic, right? Instead of maybe having the technology of, hey, how about cell phone? Maybe they can come up with something so cell phones, people can't use them in the car or text in the car or something like that, but God forbid they do that, right? They'd never do something like that because they want that stuff. They love this stuff, right? Because by having people able to text in cars and cause these accidents and the increase in accidents, it makes it easier for them to roll in this total control system known as driverless vehicles. So you're seeing reports of more and more accidents and stuff like that happening. But then you see the spin stories underneath it. Well, it's more safer. It's much safer. Americans are getting comfortable with it, right? Because they're not just going to come out with this idea out of nowhere and shove it down your throat. They have to ease you into it, right? And that's what they've been doing. They've been easing people to be prepared for this. We've seen it in movies. We've seen it in TV shows, right? Getting everyone ready for a society like this. Now we see with Google City and all this stuff that they're doing. Everything going to be pretty much done by a robot or by a computer. And your control and your rights are just going to continue to dwindle as they put up more and more 5G towers for this technology. They're just going to continue to kill you, make you sicker, fry your brain, give you tumors. And then everybody will look around, they'll blame God. They'll never have a clue about what's going on, despite people constantly trying to point them in the right direction and show them what they're doing. And that is why they constantly feel the need to make TV shows and use their sitcoms and use their talk shows at night, mocking people such as myself, because it's the only way that they can get the masses to stay away from the truth, by deflecting and using humor. So the 5G wireless, driverless, whatever you want to call it, driverless, sorry, is the correct term. The driverless car could be a year away with Uber using it full time and some of these other companies, but you'll see more attacks during the year. I'm sure there'll be more events with cars driving through, city sidewalks, killing people, right? Because this is how they get people on board with stuff like that'll never happen again. It won't? No, definitely not. Oh, okay. Instead, the driverless car will just start driving people off cliffs and people just go missing, vanishing, Families will get in the car, they'll never be seen from again. People go, we don't know. Oh, the car's being tracked 24/7, just like people go missing now and somehow, right? With the technology of a camera on every street corner. How's anyone going missing? It's beyond me. But just more of what they want, more control. I thank you for listening to today's show. God bless all of you and your families.